Morning sun about to come over the horizon. Okay, look, hope everyone's doing good. Yeah, if you're healthy, give thanks. If you're prospering, give thanks. If you're struggling, let's double down and work and get ourselves to the position we want to be in, whether that's our health or our finance, our matters of the heart, whatever it is we've got to be working on. Hope, yeah, you can keep progressing with that. I've just been taking time out from painting because I've had some good commercial work to do. So trying to get myself some money to sit on so I can carry on creating. Yeah, it goes. So there's a lot of dark energy going around that I feel like we have to protect ourselves from. And so what I want to talk about just quickly is just about a firewall that we can put up in our mind. I was doing some research about caves, and I was looking at this footage of this Malheur. I think it's the Malheur cave, and I believe it's in Oregon. And the story of the cave is, well, it looked like a team had been hired, but they built this big gate, and then you go in, you walk down maybe 100 meters, and you get to basically an auditorium, some seating on either side, and there's an altar in the middle. So some kind of ritualistic practice have been going on in this cave. But the way that the cast iron gate was decorated caught my attention, because it just reminded me of something that I'd seen Puffy in. And this is how this whole thing, rabbit hole, started. So I thought, let me go back and look at Puffy's outfit from the Met Gala 2017, right? Because him and Cassie grabbed the headlines that year. And the theme for that year, the Met Gala, was Comme des garçons, like boys, like the boys, like boys. All right, that was the theme. They were celebrating Ray Kawabuku, or I think that's her name. They were celebrating her collection, and 120 dresses that were being put in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, I believe. Rihanna modelled one of the dresses, big thing. Diddy and Cassie got all out with their outfits and basically steal the show that year with their outfits. Puffy sitting on the steps, waiting for Cassie to walk towards him and getting, soaking up all the media attention. So Diddy had hired Rick Owens to design his outfit, and for those who don't know Rick Owens, he's like the Marilyn Manson of fashion, in his appearance. Not as scary goth as that, but I believe he was bullied as a child, and he got into body sculpture, bodybuilding, and worked on his physique and his appearance. He was an artist, and he put his energy into appearance and clothing and designing clothing. And his stuff's slick. Some of it might be unnerving, some of it's almost chimeric, and it's both religious and sacrilegious. He had a Catholic upbringing, but then appears to be involved in occult knowledge, and some of this occult knowledge is dark. But I don't know where he stands, but his outfits are interesting.
Yeah, as a pattern maker for her.
You got dragged in.
I got dragged in.
So Diddy's wearing this outfit that basically makes him look like some kind of a priest. The priest of darkness.
Is this your avant-garde moment?
Yeah. This is it. This is fearlessness. This is bringing a little bit of drama.
The illuminating priest, and he's got the white shirt. It's not like a priest collar, but it goes down to a V, in an Italian style. And then he's got the black suit jacket and the black coat over the top, both with the illuminating ray. And then if you look at Cassie's outfit, this is even more interesting. And then she'd gone to a designer called Bay Ackerland, and her and her husband Jonas, they're like they make theatrical fashion pieces, they'll be involved in a lot of the big films in Hollywood, making the outfits and stuff like that. They recently did Madonna's video, which she called Enlightenment. So you get an idea of the type of clothing that she's making. And with going back to Ray Kawabuku, or I believe that's her name, but she deals in binary opposites and the space, and she focuses on the space that exists between binary opposites. That's what her work and the theme for the gala was. So, puffy, religious, sacrilegious maybe. Yeah. And then you got Cassie's outfit, which is essentially the beauty and the beast, all in one. Cassie being the beauty, and then the outfit, if you start with the neckline, it's like a hexagon, but the corner of the dress here, the shoulder strap, goes out to the side. So when this is hung on a hanger and lifted off the ground, it would essentially look like horns. And corsetry, that would be like the face. And then as you look down the dress, you see that this black kind of porcupiney plastic tubing that makes it have the appearance of the fur, the body of the beast. And then if you look at her hands, her fingernails are like painted with arrows, so they're like claws. And she has a ring on her hand that says "F-U." And then even like where the bra is, it looks like they're almost like something climbing out of a cleavage area. And then you got the handbag. Now the handbag is a skull, and that's something we don't mess around with, skulls, because in the monotheistic faith, like when God describes his worst ever punishment, that would be to leave a body out in the open. So basically, moral of the story is everyone deserves a burial, and we don't really mess around with skulls. Okay, so I thought that was interesting, but not as interesting as the theme for 2024, because 2024 Met Gala theme is the Timeless Garden and Sleeping Beauty. And when we're talking about Sleeping Beauty, there's actually like an ancient archetype. There's actually a whole group of Sleeping Beauties that all revolve around this one character, Dionysus. His wife, Ariadne, was a Sleeping Beauty. First time he ever saw her, she was sleeping. And that's when he fell in love with her. And there's Aura and various other women that he actually put to sleep, shall we say. And if you look at Zendaya, that outfit is representative of Dionysus. Dionysus in Greek mythology was like the effeminate man god, right? Depicted with the wine or the grapes, because he was sort of the father of wine. But he used wine to get people in a relaxed state for his own benefit. And this woman Nicaea, the nymph, caught his eye, and he's basically drug-graped her. And now she's wakes up, figures out what's happened to her, realizes she's now with child. So she decides that she wants to kill herself, essentially. And Dionysus doesn't allow her to do this because he wants the child to come to term, because he wants basically a helper for himself and for his sons. So anyway, Nicaea brings forth this girl child, and the girl child's called Telet, T-E-L-E-T-E, Telet, like Teletubbies, Telet. And she grew up to be the queen of the rituals, the queen of the Greek orgies. And she was had the responsibility of like uniting the world that we know with the underworld. So rituals would take place in caves, and the wine would flow, and all manner of nastiness would go down during these rites. And it was about, you know, getting a group of people together and allowing them to live in a vacuum of moral relativity, where the rules outside don't matter to what's going on inside. And yeah, that was her role. And to get an insight into what actually would go down in these ritualistic ceremonies that Telet would put on, because she was not only the sort of the queen of the rituals, right, but she was also heralded for her theatrics, and so she was like the queen of theatre. So that gives you an idea of how these kind of ritualistic practices that she sat over went down. In 186 BC, someone called Titus Livius, a historian, wrote a book called The History of Rome. And in book 39, he talks about the Bacchic orgies, right? Or the Bacchic rituals. And the account went like this. So we're talking about, we're in Italy, you know, and they described the foreigner, you know, they described someone coming in most likely from Greece. And this guy is like a preacher, a priest, charlatan, fake priest type. And he starts organizing the Bacchic rituals and orgies and rites of passage. He starts organizing them in Italy under, you know, this is the Great Rome. Right, so this is going on in Rome, imported from Greece, and you know, everyone's involved. All of the big politicians of the area, all of the big, you know, people that you might want to have sway over, they were all there. And in this account, there was a noble guy. Wasn't easily compromised, and he was in possession of some land, or like a ward of land, and they wanted to get, obviously somebody's coveting his land. So it was decided that if they could get him into the Bacchic orgies, the rituals, right, then they could compromise him and separate him from his birthright, take the ward. And unfortunately, his parents were involved in this, right? So he falls ill, and when he's sort of recovers from his like momentary sickness, his mum says, like, now that you've recovered, I'm gonna have to send you to the bucket rites rituals, because we got to give thanks for your miraculous return to health. So it's like, okay. And you know, he doesn't really know what this is all about. He's got a girlfriend, so he's going to be separated from her for 10 days. So he's like, let me go and talk to my girl. And he's like, you know, I don't want to, I'm sorry, babes, but I'm going to be gone for 10 days kind of thing. And she's like, well, where are you going? And his girlfriend's like a Moor, right, black woman. And he says, well, I'm going to go and do the Bacchanalia, the Bacchic rites. And she's like, hold on. She's like, she stops him and gives him a very strong warning, to the paraphrasing now, that it's better that me and you die here right now than you go and get involved in that. And he's like, why, what's going on? I can't really tell you. I was a slave when I went there. My mistress took me, and what I witnessed got me scared. I don't ever want to go there or have anything to do with what I saw and what I witnessed. And he's like, so if you can imagine, he's quite confused now, because his parents are sending him to this Bacchic ritual, and his girlfriend's telling him, don't go. So he goes and gets a second opinion, and basically hollers at like a spiritual sort of auntie of his. And he begins to tell her what's going on. And her response is, stop this right now. Let's get the authorities involved. This doesn't sound right. So then they involve like the Roman authorities, consulate, I'm not sure what it's called. They involve the Roman authorities now. And they come down to find out what's going on. And we're like, okay, so this is going, you believe this is going on. Where's this information coming from? Well, it's from his girlfriend. Well, bring this more to me. So they summon her. And when she comes, she's very tight-lipped. They're saying what goes on in these gatherings in the caves, and with the music, what goes on. And she's like afraid to talk about it to the authorities. So then they threaten her and they say, look, basically, if you don't tell us, we're going to assume that you're part of it. And when we come down on this ring, we're going to come down on you too, as a co-conspirator. So at that point, she drops to her knees, and she's absolutely terrified as she begins to give her a detailed account of what she sees. And what she says is that once these parties are underway and everybody involved is sworn to secrecy, and they're in the darkness and the wine's flowing and the young children are made accessible to the adults, under this cover of darkness and secrecy, the men prefer to be with the men and the boys, and the women with the women. And then those who aren't quite comfortable with what's going on, if they couldn't keep their mouth shut, would become a sacrifice. And she said that some of these people had been strapped to machines for a beast to devour them. And she said that there were also so many people that had been taken underground that it was like a state unto itself. This was her account. So then, the authorities are like, all right, what we're going to do, we're going to put every one of them under surveillance, and we're going to let them know this investigation is going on. But you know, we won't make a big thing about it. But the people who need to know are going to need to know. They're not going to be able to leave the country until we supported them. We're going to gather up all the evidence we can and shut this thing down. And basically that's what happens. But when they get to the bottom of everything and they're making the arrests and they're talking about what action they're going to take, they outlaw the cult and the practices. But they kind of left the back door open, because they said, but if you've got a really old god that you want to sacrifice to and you can't live without it, then it's permitted. So it's kind of shut down, but wasn't. Interesting. I mean, the whole thing about the cave and the people being fed to the beasts of the cave, that was just wild. And but I think it's important to acknowledge, especially in this day and age with the technology we've got, and and some of the reports, is we've got to start acknowledging that there are some very large primate, giant type creatures on this planet that live in caves. It's being well documented now. But it sounds if you're not familiar with this and you think this is crazy, right, I would say check out the account of the Kandahar giant. Right, this one's fascinating, right, because here you've got military personnel that gone missing in Afghanistan. And then, so they're sending, it's like an alien film, this one. So they're like, right, we're going to send troops to their last known location. We know roughly where they're going. So let's sweep and let's find them. And I think it takes 3 days before they get to a point of interest, because they're really scanning and they don't want to miss their boys on the way. But then they start seeing what might be human remains and bits of equipment. And then they key in on a bit of equipment that's 100% theirs. And then they've got a mountain pass that goes like it might be a goat kind of trail, but then it leads down to a cave. And they had instructions from their superiors to keep your guns held head high, but maybe higher. Because maybe a report had gone in from the previous team about what they'd encountered. I don't know. As they descend down towards the cave, they're caught by surprise. And a huge spear with a lance, yeah, with an 8-pound tip and practically a tree trunk as the shaft of the spear. This comes flying out of the cave, straight into one of the soldiers. I believe his name was Daniel. Straight into the guy's chest, obviously killing him immediately. Followed by an almighty roar, and we're not talking about a 7-foot giant, 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, 11 foot, 12 foot. This thing was estimated to be 13 feet. Red-haired, shaggy, stinking giant. They say that at this point, it's run out, tried to retrieve its lance. In doing so, lifted the guy up. They just said they unloaded everything they had on this giant's head. Giant goes down under this barrage of shots, dead. They phone in. We've got 2 casualties. We've got our boy and we've got this dead giant. And it's like when they're talking to the home base, they can't quite, whoever's on the other end can't quite comprehend what they're saying about this giant. Yeah. But after a while, the airlift comes in to take away both bodies, and there's I believe there's reports from the helicopter pilot about the stench of the giant. Interestingly, there's a guy called Ray Rahim who used to live in Afghanistan, and his family live in that area of Kandahar. And his grandmother, and her mother before her, and her mother before her, and so on, were local witches. And he says she has a tattoo here. But what she's known for locally is for feeding the Kandahar giant, basically. So she would be taking a goat to the cave entrance, and then they step away, and then next thing you hear the goat or the lamb screaming. But they regularly fed this thing, and it was well known. So when like the military first showed up in Afghanistan, her son worked in the local area where they were asking questions, and he's immediately thinking they're coming to find out, is coming to ask about the giant. And so he's there ready for the giant questions. They don't ask anything about the giant. So then he then assumes that they don't know, he keeps his mouth shut. But anyway, they walked right into that trap. And it just didn't just happen in Afghanistan, it happened in Vietnam as well. Yeah, but these are just the stuff that's out there that you can read about, you can easily access, you know, rock apes in Vietnam. But yeah, so you've had people feeding beasts from the underworld. If you read the accounts of giants usually, you know, on the hard times they might eat a human or two to survive. You know, so they, so maybe it's a peace offering. It keeps the Kandahar giant from actually attacking the people, in a way that you'd hear the stories of the Native Americans, you know, having communications, making offerings to the giants of the forests of America and the caves of America. But that's the Kandahar story, and you know, this is not, wherever you delve into uncharted territory, the more likely you are to see something that you think is a cryptid, but it's just simply something that you've never seen before. I mean, if you look at this tree here, right? Imagine how heavy this tree is. Imagine me trying to lift this tree up and stand it on its end, so the root system is at the top and the tip of the tree is at the bottom. Yeah, in Alaska that's been done by these giants, or it's been done by someone in an area where these types of creatures can be seen and where lots and lots of people go missing. But going back to the Cassie outfit, she was dressed as the beast, and she was dressed as the beast. You can look at the henna tattoo or the tattooing on her fingers, and you can see they've like done some very slick iconography kind of logo of a beast, which I believe to be Baphomet, because this is the beast that people in the occult worship. Let me just very quickly dismantle Baphomet and put Baphomet in the position of a fake, inconsequential idol god, right? It all goes back to the Knights Templar, because you can't find an account of Baphomet prior to the Knights Templar. And what happened is, well, first of all, let's look at the practices of the Knights Templar, because there's a lot of mystery about what they actually do and what they actually did, okay? We heard that they took part in the Crusades. We heard that they were escorts, would take people to Jerusalem and make sure they weren't harmed, right? That's what we hear, yeah? If you look at the work of a man called Freddie Silver has spent a couple of decades looking at this stuff. And what he's basically uncovered is that the Knights Templar were attempting to be guardians of the actual practices of the Essenes and the knowledge held within the Essene community. That ultimately, this knowledge and these practices ultimately what got Jesus killed, because the Essenes being like the original Christians. And what's interesting about what they practice, or about how they pray, which is not actually very well known, is that the spots, the locations that they pray, they believe can enhance can enhance their ability to connect with the divine. And this practice was outlawed because it meant that you could have divine communications all by yourself without the need of intercession. Yeah, you need the one in between, and that's the position where the Church of Rome sat. You had to go through the Church of Rome to get your blessing, and at the same time, you tithe. So what they would do, they would look for these signatures, these energetic signatures in the earth that we call ley lines, these channels of energy. And then if they could find a point where two powerful ley lines converged, they would place a stone. And that stone that they would place would be called the altar. Because this is a place where they believed that you could undergo some type of spiritual transformation. And then by praying on a channel, your prayers can be like amplified, or it helps you to get into the state that you should be in when you pray, do a meditative prayer. So they would look for like two ley lines. And for example, here in England, very close to where I am right now, there's a place called Royston. And there's a cave in Royston Cave. And Royston Cave sits on two ley lines, the Michael ley line and the Mary ley line. So at this conversion point, deep underground, there's an area where you can pray. And where some knowledge was hidden from Rome, the Church of Rome, who was like their enemy at the time. And the Knights Templar made a fatal mistake in that they lent money to King Philip IV of France, who was not a particularly nice man. If you read the history of this king, he was simultaneously at war with the Roman Church, the Jews, and the Knights Templar, all over money, because he'd already spent all the money that there was to spend, and now he was trying to cover his backside. I mean, this guy was spending money like crazy. He bought the Louvre, that become an extension of his living dominions, right? So yeah, he's out of money, so he borrows money from the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar aren't charging usury. So all he's got to do is pay the money back. But when it's time to pay up, he doesn't want to pay up, and he decides instead that he's going to just destroy them. But in order to do this, he's got to first do what they always do, and that is spread the propaganda, so that when the Knights Templar are attacked, nobody cares. And the way he did that was to slur them. And do you know what the slur is that he invented for the Knights Templar? Baphomet. It's a slur. And because if you look at the etymology of the word Baphomet, it comes from Muhammad. So for anybody who was considered Christian to be going into a cave so they could secretly practice some type of dark, scary Islam was not a good thing. And people wouldn't be very sympathetic towards them. So that's what he done. He said that they're worshipping Muhammad, Baphomet. But prior to that point, Baphomet didn't exist. So in worshipping Baphomet, basically these celebrities that engage in this, what they're doing is worshipping a creature that came from the paranoid mind of King Philip IV of France. They're worshipping his propaganda, the boogeyman, that he created. I thought it was interesting. And another god that you hear them worshipping, people think it's cool to worship in the satanic practices, is Moloch. And again, like, if you go into the rabbinical scholarship of all of this stuff, yeah, Moloch was not a god or a deity or an entity of any sort. That's a misinterpretation. When you're looking at the Hebraic, you can drop the vowels and you can have MLK, you know, and that's where the significance, the meaning of the word comes from, right? MLK. And so that would be like royal, Malachi, Malik, you know. But when you said Moloch, when you gave it that expression, that meant making a sacrifice. To who? The word Moloch is not the name of a god, it's the name of a sacrificial practice. So a Moloch offering would be like, for example, there's something that you really wanted to achieve in life. And you say to God, I want this to happen. And it happens. Okay, that now you've received these benefits, you have to make a sacrifice. And that sacrifice would be a child. Or if the parents couldn't bring themselves to do it, it would be a sacrificial lamb, scapegoat. And we know that this actually happened, but the God that they were worshipping, well, there's many gods that people made these kind of sacrifices to, but none of them were called Moloch. That was the name given to sacrifices that were actually made to Yahweh. So there is no Moloch. There is no entity called Moloch. There is Moloch sacrifice. Okay, you see the iron ball that would get heated and incinerate the sacrificial child or animal. But that wasn't a god. That was a sacrificial chamber. You know, this actual practice, that sacrifice, when it's made, it's called a Holocaust. That's what it's called. Yeah, people are secretly worshipping these entities and deities that are actually powerless, and that's probably why they're in so much trouble right now. In so much trouble right now. And really, really misguided and misled people. You know, because you've got... See what they do in these secret societies is they give you information you've never had before. But they mix it with a level of evil that you might never have fathomed before. And in a way, make something fair seeming to you by bedazzling you with knowledge. But that knowledge doesn't belong to them. It's ancient knowledge that's been held in secret societies for years. So people get this little bit of information that might be a powerful truth, but it's mixed with a powerful falsehood. And that's how they get taken down. And they end up doing a strange type of spiritual practice. Sun is up. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's what I'm seeing. That's definitely what I'm seeing. 100% what I'm seeing. And I'm also seeing the takedown of gatekeepers. And that to me is like, very much like another Greek myth. Kronos, the Kronos complex. Kronos was the Titan god, son of Gaia, son of Gaia and Uranus. Uranus being the sky and Gaia being the earth. And they came together and they gave us Kronos. Wow. Some big game gone through here. I'm a part-time Sasquatch hunter, by the way. And because there's deer around here, wherever there's deer, they can eat. It's just a little bit of fun I have there. Yeah, with the Kronos complex, basically long and short of it is, the guy has, every time he has a child, he basically kills his own children, or he eats his own children every time he has a child. Because when he was a young man and he murdered his dad, Uranus, right? When he murdered his dad, before his dad actually died, in his last breaths, he said, like, basically, what you're doing unto me is going to be done unto you, right? And that made him think, because he knew how cunning and evil he was. So he became paranoid of his own children. So every time he had a child, he would swallow the child. Now, his wife, is it Heather? Can't remember. She decided she's gonna help one of her children escape. So she gives birth to the child and then stashes the child basically in a cave in Crete, and gives her husband the blanket that the child was in, but it's just got stones inside of it, some big stones inside of it, and he swallows the child in his normal ritual, but he's just swallowed the stones. So then Zeus, grows up to be strong and comes upon his father and deceives him into drinking a poison, and the poison makes him vomit, and when he vomits up all of Zeus's siblings. So now Zeus has got an army, and there's him, Poseidon, Hades, and they triangulate the god Kronos. Zeus hits him with a thunderbolt, they restrain him, and that's the end of Kronos. They put him in chains, and they lock him in a dungeon where he lives for some time until eventually I think they have a bit of mercy on him and let him free. Yeah, and allegedly he's still there to this day, the god Kronos, the god of time. But some people have got this Kronos complex. They don't want their children to do better than them, or they want to sit on top and rinse off of everybody, but not let anybody succeed them. But yeah, I think, so with a few gatekeepers being taken down here and there, it's good times for people who've, let me put it this way, right? If you're a quite an enlightened person, and trying to take your energy up, you might be a really gifted person, a really talented person, and you just can't figure out for the life of you why you don't get the opportunities that seem to fall to other people. But sometimes the rooms that you're trying to get into are dark, and they see that you're a person of light, and that's why you've not been allowed in. And I think that's something that we should all consider. Like, if you're not making progress in life the way that you thought you might, just keep going, just hold tight. Thank you for listening. I hope that information was helpful in some way, and have a blessed day.